In light of the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting, one reflects upon past massacres and cannot help but see the similarities. Conflicting news reports on what happened and who did the killing, and the coincidental government agenda that is pushed shortly thereafter, namely gun control. On April 20th, 1999, Adolf Hitler's birthday, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold walked into their school and went on a shooting rampage, killing 12 students and one teacher. The police stood outside for over 3 hours before finally entering into the building. Why? Immediately after the shooting, conflicting news reports came out. There are over 100 accounts of students who saw more than 2 shooters, more than 40 of them being able to identify the suspects. For example, student Jake Apotica was on the soccer field with his friends when he saw 3 men, not 2, by the school shooting guns and one of them throwing a bomb on the roof. There were also numerous mysterious deaths that took place after the massacre. To date, no one has been charged in the deaths and authorities have been tight-lipped about it. For example, Nicholas Kunzelman and Stephanie Hart, friends of Dylan Klebold, were shot dead at a Subway store on February 13th, 2000, sometime before 10 p.m. Police said that they could not enter the building until 7 a.m. the following morning because they didn't have the proper search warrant. What? Yeah, you heard me right. That's gotta be a first. Investigators labeled it as a professional sniper slaying. The security camera was off and no one has been charged for their deaths to this day. In April 2009, marking the 10-year anniversary of the Columbine shooting, families of 5 slain students asked a federal grand jury to investigate their claims that one student, Daniel Rorbo, was shot and killed by a police officer. They even have audio of the sheriff deputy admitting he saw Daniel being killed. Yet, despite the facts, authorities have covered up the evidence, continuously maintaining that it was Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold alone who were responsible for the massacre. After the shooting, there was a major push for gun control. And ironically, the weapons Eric and Dylan used just happened to be the ones the United States government wanted to ban. Was this just the thing that needed to happen in order to push their agenda? You decide. Another interesting point to note about the Columbine shooting is that according to articles in the Denver Post, the Columbine killers fantasized about hijacking a plane and crashing it into New York City or the World Trade Towers. Friends, where would those thoughts come from? Could the government be directly involved in the massacres, especially ones so highly publicized by the media? Well, what does history teach us? Here are some facts. Let's go to Waco, Texas. Texas Massacre in 1993. Canada Free Press came out with an article in 2010 after former Clinton advisor Dick Morris went public and stated that it was Clinton himself, not Attorney General Janet Reno, who was calling the shots during the botched invasion, leading to the death of 76 people, including 20 children. Morris said Clinton, in fact, was so ashamed about what he did in Waco that he was not going to appoint Janet Reno to a second 4-year term. She told him in a meeting right before the inauguration day, "If you don't appoint me, I'm going to tell the truth about Waco." And that forced Clinton's hand. It has never been said publicly before. And one more point. 3 of Clinton's personal bodyguards during his presidential campaign were killed during the siege by one of their own ATF members.
Next, we see 3 of the 4 agents on the roof breaking into the window. After these agents get through the window and into the room, you will briefly see the 4th agent on the roof. The film picks up with the 4th agent tossing something into the room. It makes no sense for him to be throwing anything at all into a room where the 3 ATF agents have just gone, unless he intends to injure his own men. He also fires a machine gun into the room twice without looking. Regardless of who is shooting from inside that room, this agent just threw what appears to have been a grenade and fired a machine gun twice into the room where his 3 fellow ATF agents have just gone. All 3 of the agents who were sent into the window were killed. All 3 were Bill Clinton's bodyguards during his presidential campaign.
Even former ATF members knew the higher-ups in the administration were completely criminal.
In my career with ATF, the people that I put in jail have more honor than the top administration in this organization. I know it's a sad commentary, but that's my experience with ATF.
But how was Waco sold to you, America? Let's go to the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing, which under Clinton's administration was responsible for the deaths of 168 people, including 19 children. Carol Howe, a government informant, revealed that the federal agencies had prior knowledge of the terrorist plot and were ignoring several figures linked to the bombing. Conveniently, the ATF knew not to be in the building that day, and not one ATF member or their children are on the list of casualties. Roger Charles of ABC News interviewed Howe to release this information to the public. However, once the story was ready to air, they received a phone call from ABC 2020 in New York, canceling the program with no explanation as to why. It is interesting to note that an op-ed piece for the New York Times, Clinton associated the Tea Party movement with the terrorist bombers in Oklahoma City bombing. Yet again, America, who is responsible for the crimes committed against we the people? Side note, scores of people have died mysteriously around Clinton's administration. Clinton was also well known for running drugs in Mena, Arkansas as well. But again, America, how was the Oklahoma City bombing sold to you? And now we come to the Ruby Ridge, Idaho siege. Under Clinton's administration as well, Randy Weaver was approached by 2 Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms agents with an offer. Spy on the Aryan Nations, a white supremacy group headquartered in northern Idaho, or go to jail. Weaver refused to become a government informer. Shortly after, a team of 6 U.S. Marshals ambushed Randy Weaver and his family when they trespassed onto his land on August 21st, 1992. One of the Marshals threw rocks at Weaver's cabin to aggravate their dog and lure them out of the house. When Weaver, his friend Mr. Harris, and his son went to investigate, they shot and killed 14-year-old Sammy Weaver. Weaver's friend Harris shot back in self-defense, killing one of the Marshals. After this incident, the FBI was called in. A member of the FBI SWAT team remembered the rules of engagement as, if you see him, shoot him. This is your government, America. This is in direct violation of the Constitution, which allows no person to become fair game for deadly force unless that person poses a threat. A 14-year-old little boy. Without the Weavers firing a single shot at the FBI, Agent Lon Haruchi shot Randy Weaver in the back when he and his daughter Sarah stepped out of the cabin to see his dead son. Agent Haruchi then proceeded to shoot Randy's unarmed wife, Vicky, in the head as she was standing in the doorway holding their baby, killing her instantly. Yes, I said the United States government. Haruchi was indicted for manslaughter by Idaho authorities for the shooting, but the charges were thrown out. The federal government only made excuses for him, and it's also important to note that Haruchi was a sniper in the Waco siege as well. Subsequent testimony at the Weaver trial about the days that followed the shooting of Vicky and Sammy is even more disturbing. It was disclosed that the FBI would taunt Weaver, knowing that his wife and son were dead, by blasting a loudspeaker towards the cabin with sayings such as, "Good morning, Miss Weaver. We're having pancakes. What are you having for breakfast?" Randy Weaver was eventually cleared of all charges and won a settlement from the government for over $3 million. The court also concluded that Harris acted in self-defense when shooting the United States Marshal, and he was exonerated of all charges as well. Friends, murder is wrong even if the government sanctions it. What happened at Ruby Ridge, Waco, Oklahoma City, and Columbine should never be forgotten. George Washington rightly said, "A government is like fire, a handy servant, but a dangerous master."